designed by me, built by me, and you best hope not pointed at you.
Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I've got for you a Protea guide, nice and long, just I like to make them. And before I get started, I just want to thank you guys so much for the Kome guide. It did so well. I'm so unbelievably happy with how well it did. I appreciate your guys' support. Please keep it up. Whatever I can do, more of what you like, less of what you dislike, ideally. Thank you so much. I'll keep it short, but just thank you very much. So for Protea, she is kind of an area denial frame, a little bit of time manipulation in there. The playstyle is very unique, very fun, lots of killing, and a good amount of support. One of the better support abilities in the game, I'd say top 5 for sure in Dispensary. You basically don't need a gun on this Warframe, which is incredible. It allows for a unique playstyle that I will introduce to you in this video, but that's for later. And yeah, I think you guys are really gonna like this one. Protea is my most played Warframe. Her OG before her Prime came out, but I'll put those stats on the screen for receipts. Starting, unfortunately, with her acquisition. It's a bit difficult. It's a 3-step process. First, you're going to want to complete the Deadlock Protocol quest, which you unlock from the Saturn Junction. You have to be MR4 for it as well. At that point, you are going to farm what are called treasures. These spawn on the following tile sets that I'll put on nodes that I'll put on the screen for you now. These will drop these things called Granum Crowns, which you will then take to the Golden Hands, similar to the kind of procedure you do with the Deadlock Protocol quest. Farming these crowns, how many you'll need, it's essentially up to RNG, so maybe grab like 5 of each if you can. Start from there. My luck was very poor, but I won't trauma dump it here today. You'll basically complete the objective within the Granum Void, leave the mission, and you'll see what you got. I'll put the drop tables on the screen for you now, so you understand why I'm traumatized. This is probably the longest Warframe farm I've ever done. In terms of normal distribution, I was in the latter half of it, and I was very unlucky. It was worth every second. As I'm about to show you, this Warframes kit is insanely strong, but this farm for me was unreasonably difficult, but I do think I was just quite unlucky. So to break it down real quick, finish Deadlock Protocol quest, kill treasurers on the following nodes, complete the Golden Hand inside the Granum Void thing, whatever, and pray. That is it. Whatever god or lack thereof you believe in, pray. That is the most important step. So yeah, that's acquisition. Have any questions, leave them in the comments. It's a little bit difficult if you need help with the Granum Void. Basically, you're just going to want to spam the Zorus. There's lots of other strategies like Revenant, Ultimate, and Mesa. Ultimately, those are completely unnecessary. Take a frame that doesn't get knocked down, grab the Zorus, build it decent, heavy attack spam. That is all you need to do. If you were struggling, there are other videos out there that can help you that were made during, the earlier times when Protea was still being farmed more consistently. But yeah, that's basically the 3-step process. It's all you need. Let's get to the abilities and synergies. Alrighty, we're here in the Sanctum Simulacrum. It's time for the good stuff. Abilities, mods, synergies, all that good stuff. So basically, starting with our passive, it's one of the better passives in the game. It's every 4th ability you cast, in the bottom right hand corner, I'll show you as I cast them, you gain 100% additional power strength. This buffs Protea's damage quite a significant amount, and this also applies to helmet abilities, which can have utility purposes, in the case of Dispensary or Gloom if you helmet that on, or usually, for my case, raw damage. As I go over every ability, I'll kind of tell you how Protea's passive plays into it, but it's not overly complicated. Quite frankly, it's not worth overthinking at all. So yeah, very strong passive ability. Next is Protea's 1 Grenade Fan. This ability has a tap and a hold cast. I will show you the tap cast here. Basically, it sends out these little blade grenades that stagger enemies very hard, causing them to kind of do a little dance out of their position. You'll notice at the end of this duration they'll be quite out of position. Also proc and slash. Now these enemies are very tanky, so they are not gonna die to this. Some of these low-level enemies are taking decent damage, but if primed with viral and dealt damage from other sources, they will fall over from this. If their armor is stripped, this ability's main value later on is gonna be the stagger from it. Look at this. These enemies are useless. It's pretty strong. But it can kill, and especially at lower levels, it will kill. So keep that in mind. In later levels, it is a utility ability mostly, but be aware that this is incredibly strong. And with one of Protea's augments that I'll get into later, this ability becomes like 10 times better. So that's just that's just half of the ability, and the second half is better. The hold cast, you can see my passive filling up there in the bottom right, are shield satellites. These will give you full overshields and continue to generate shields for you as they orbit. Now you can notice I throw out multiple, just in the same way that grenade fans are thrown out. Do note that these fan out, meaning if you cast them just in front of you, they'll be kind of grouped up, but if you cast them far away, they spread out like that. This applies for the damage version as well. So when these break, when your shields break, you are given an enhanced shield gate. This is the period of invincibility that you get after your shields break. Protea extends that to like 3.5 seconds, I believe. It's 3 or 3.5 seconds, regardless. That means that you can get your invincibility. You've got time to then cast it again, and this is on command invincibility, effectively. And especially when you're in lower levels and you're a newer player, you probably wouldn't even have your shield broken. You'll just be able to keep replenishing those shields. If this is something that interests you, especially if you're playing in like higher end content where things are a little more lethal, you can go to your options here and invert tap hold abilities. Scroll down to Protea and invert them. This will make it so that the tap cast is the shields and the hold cast is the stagger grenades. But as you can see, I've staggered these enemies all into a corner. This ability is intensely strong for crowd control. So yeah, shield your teammates, shield yourself, keep yourself invincible effectively, stagger enemies, and lower levels this ability will straight up kill. Keep that in mind. So moving on to her second ability. Protea's second ability is Blaze Artillery. So Protea will spawn a turret, like so, in the sky, that shoots enemies, spans about 130 degrees, and has a pretty insane base range. The range is moddable, but we'll go into that in a second. And as you can see, so I currently have like a beginner build on that I'm going to show you in a little bit, and I just killed a couple of those guys. These level 200 Steel Path modified armored targets. We're talking pretty insane heat procs. Of course, the heat status effect makes them panic. This is an insane ability. Another note, of course, you'll see that there's a multiplier here. This multiplier is a 100% multiplier per, stack. So 18 shots is 1800% additional damage and multipliers per target hit. This means that grouping helmets, grouping abilities, grouping weapons, which is a little sneak peek into what I want to show you, are incredibly valuable because the duration on these turrets is low. Even with my strongest duration build, I can't really get over 8 seconds without sacrificing a ton of damage or other stats or modding comfort. So just be aware that most of the damage you're going to get is deceivingly from the multiplier. So you need to be making sure you're placing these turrets well. What that means is you don't have to place it like super high up in the air, and quite frankly you shouldn't, because when you place it high up in the air here, you're not able to get or take advantage of the infinite body punch through these things have. It means that you're probably going to be only hitting 1 to 2 targets per shot. Meanwhile, if you place it a little more at ground level, those shots are going to be able to pierce through multiple targets. And again, this is infinite body punch through, so you can hit, in theory, as many targets as are present on the field at any given moment. So, and then quick note, only 3 turrets can be present at a time. So you'll notice that when I place 3, place that 4th one, the first one I placed disappears. This is relevant when you get to higher duration builds. This build is at like a 4.5 second duration or whatever. But as you can see, most of the damage will come from the stacking, which means that if you have a higher duration build, if you're spamming the turrets, which is tempting to do, I understand, you will get rid of your highest combo turret, very likely. So kind of be present of which turrets you have out at any given time. I would say try to focus on using your abilities in tandem, especially with your passive. So like for a demonstration, you'll see I'll cast my 1, I'll cast my 2 using my passive, and instead of like spamming right away placing another 2, I'll throw a 1 first. A full string might look like this, where I throw my 1 to queue up my 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I've got now 3 turrets out. 1 expires. I'm ready to put my next one down. Your 1 is basically always going to be kind of a vehicle for getting your passive up because it casts so quickly, especially once you get casting shards in, which my Protea does have. You'll kind of notice that this is like a mage engineer ability spam. Like I said, you don't need a gun on this character. It's insane. It certainly helps, and again, I'll show you some synergies that are very unique to Protea, but yeah, you're going to be spamming turrets, but not really. You want to be a little bit aware of how you're doing it. How are we going to spam so many abilities? I'm about to show you with Protea's third ability. Protea's third ability is Dispensary. So Protea is just going to pop down this little doohickey here, and it shoots out enhanced health orbs, universal ammo, and energy. Note that the chance to drop something additional is scaling with power strength. So that means that, like before, we're going to use our 1 as a catalyst to get our passive up, and then casting our Dispensary with that additional power strength will straight up give you and your team more drops. This is insanely useful. A couple of notes that I want to put out here. Equilibrium is downright broken due to these being enhanced health orbs. I would recommend that you actually put Equilibrium on your build. It is in my starter build, but just an Equilibrium shard will do straight up. I also run Zeneric with Protea for a little bit of extra energy if I ever need it. But yeah, Equilibrium makes Protea so strong. There are a few Warframes that really use Equilibrium well. Protea is for sure one of them. Another note is if you are against Corpus and Corrupted, and you're kind of playing a more mobile playstyle, I would suggest you place your Dispensary a little bit higher in the air. Maybe like here, if not, probably even higher. The drops will just shoot down here, and a Nullifier Bubble, if it comes into contact with your Dispensary, will break it, which you really don't want, especially if you're not using Protea's ult, which we'll get over in a second. Your energy economy can kind of hurt, forgive me, because you're not getting your Dispensary drops. It's a pretty expensive ability, all things considered. So, but yeah, they'll just drop to the ground, real convenient there for your teammates. There really is no difference in having it up here versus down here. Also, do note that the Dispensary sits on the minimap. So if you need to know where it is, if you forget, it's on the minimap. If your teammates need to look for it, it's on the minimap. This ability is insanely useful. The universal ammo really helps with weapons that are normally not as strong due to ammo limitations. And I believe it can actually refill our guns. That I'm not 100% sure of, but I do believe that is the case. So yeah, this is one of the best, in my opinion, this is one of the best support abilities in the game. It's no Mesmer Shield like Revenant, but it does provide like a little bit of everything, most of what you'll need, and then what it doesn't provide, which is survivability, is provided by your shield satellites. So overall, incredible ability. Make sure you cast it with your passive. That's going to be really important that you do. And this is just a great way to get energy, ammo, and those are the main uses for it. Alright, next we have the best for last, depending on who you ask. This ability is not used by a lot of players, and some have made the case that it feels kind of ham-fisted in. Even Brozyme, who is like the Protea guy, kind of isn't a huge fan of this ability, and I get it. I don't actually use it either, but I think part of being a Protea player is knowing how to use it properly, and there's quite a lot of uses for it. So Temporal Anchor is basically going to put you in this little animation. You're going to get a few seconds of invulnerability, and you get to run around a little after images following you there, and you can recast, or at the end of its duration, and you'll hear this little clicking sound. There you go. And that sound means you're about to rewind. But you can also just recast it and force the rewind to begin again. Oops, sorry. Recast. There we go. Obviously, the amount of time it takes to rewind is going to scale with how far you move. Interestingly, it doesn't actually scale with how long you're in it. It does strictly scale with how far you move. Even if I sit in it for the max amount of time, it is purely based on the physical plane. So I'll zip back instantly, which is useful if you're trying to use it in like an applied fashion. Know that it does not scale with how long you're in it. It scales with the distance you travel, meaning that even if you're in it for a little bit, but you travel very far, the rewind will take a moment. So let's get to the damage component of this. You'll notice that I've got this little Temporal Anchor logo with an orange number there, and when I shoot enemies, that number goes up. So this is basically Temporal Anchor storing my damage to be dealt when I rewind, like so. This implosion also groups enemies up which, as we mentioned with Blaze Artillery, is incredibly useful. Because it means that Blaze Artillery is going to stack unreasonably fast. As you can see, that got up to 50x. So if you know what you're doing, Blaze Artillery stacks really fast, and Temporal Anchor is a way to do it. Likewise, the on-command invulnerability. This is Protea's second instance of effectively what is on-command invulnerability. If she dies during the animation, no, she's invincible while rewinding. I more mean this animation, where you're kind of running around with your screen all tinted. You will be auto-rewinded, except you'll be knocked flat on your ass, which might result to your actual death, depending on if you're unlucky. But of course, you know, if you start the cast of Temporal Anchor in a safe room where enemies are not, and you die, you can rewind to your safe location. Perhaps you have a dispensary placed, like so, or maybe even shield satellites sitting there. So lots of ways to play. Generally, it shouldn't be a problem, and you can cast it for its on-command invulnerability. But let me just kind of show you the strength of this ability in terms of just grouping. I mean, you saw it, right? So I'll just cast it, and note that if you don't do any damage at all, you don't get an implosion. Like, watch this. No implosion. So you kind of, I mean, you have to put some thought into it. Also, casting it with your ult is pretty important. The strength does contribute to damage. Last I checked, though it might have a cap, so it might not be the most useful thing. The main thing is the damage you deal while you're in it. So I'll do some damage to these enemies. I'll see if I can actually get a lethal amount of damage here. So almost a mil. As you can see, the fodder enemies straight up just fell over and died. The bombards are still tanking it pretty strong, and this brave little lancer made it, along with the heavy gunners. But they still took a decent amount of damage. This is with no viral priming. I turned off my dog for this. This is with no armor stripping. Things that Protea in some of her builds is very capable of. So if you think that the time stuff, because Warframe doesn't really have a time manipulation Warframe besides Protea, who does it with just one ability, so it's kind of a shame. If you want to build just around her ultimate, you can. Don't let anyone tell you can't. It's incredibly strong. So we'll just let Blaze Artilleries take care of these guys. Yeah, this ability, survivability, damage, literally whatever you want. It's got effectively 2 augments. One of the augments is technically for Blaze Artillery, but I think that's propaganda. Temporal Anchor does kind of anything you need it to. You just have to know how to pilot it properly. This ultimate is really strong, but if you don't like it and you think you just like the engineer stuff with Protea, which is where the kind of camp that I sit in, that's totally valid. But know that this ability is strong. It can nuke at any level because the damage scales with the damage that you're dealing, and it's good. I understand disliking it, but it's a good ability, and I'll kind of demonstrate that as best as I can. I've got a build that uses it, but I will admit that most of my builds do not use it. So we're going to get to some builds, synergies, and I'll show off some of my favorite setups with Protea. Okay, I kind of forgot to demonstrate this, but since this is an extensive guide, I figured it's probably best that I show you. Protea's ult does store damage from her abilities as well. I know I was just showing you with my Lex Prime how it does, but let me just kind of show this to you. So I'll cast my ult, cast my 2. It'll store that damage. Notice that damage gets really high, really fast. I went through my 1 down and then explode. This is kind of the play style. Like, there is 1 survivor. Okay, 2, my bad. And they're gonna die to the shrapnel grenades in due time. This guy might live a little bit longer than I'd like him to, but come on, man, really? Like, I'm trying to do a demonstration here. Okay. Anyways, yeah, as you can tell, you can play her as like an artificer caster type deal. Like, it's totally viable. It's super duper fun. I just failed to show that in my original footage, so I just wanted to show that real quick. Okay, now actually do the builds and whatnot. Alrighty, out of the part that you guys really care about. So I will start with the starter build. This is one I threw together. It utilizes 1 corrupted mod that I think is really important, and that's overextended. The base range of Protea's turrets is ridiculous, unless it's 30. If you don't play a lot of Warframe, you don't really know like what a basis for what good range is. Good range on an ability, I'd say, is 30 to 40 meters. If you can get that modded, your ability is probably doing what you want it to, especially if that's a damage ability or a strong utility ability. 30 to 40 meters of affecting enemies is strong. Built in, you get 30 meters. 2 mods, this isn't even max range. 2 mods gets you 66 meters of range. This is basically usable in open worlds as a turret. this is insane. You really want this. So running over all the mods, Dreamer's Bond for, this is just what I put in every beginner build. Also note that Protea comes with a built-in like Omniforma aura, which is incredibly strong. This means you can put any aura up here and she will positively react to it. She'll like it and give you more mod room. So Intensify, ability strength, this just helps with the basics, damage really. Extended, we mentioned, this helps with the implosion from Temporal Anchor, the range of our grenade fan, and the range of Blaze Artillery as previously mentioned. Same with Augur Reach. Something to note here is that Augur mods interfere with Protea's ability to give you an enhanced shield gate. I don't care. It has never killed me once in my life. I don't play the content where that's a problem. It can also be actively like worked against as long as you're not in too hard of content, you can run the Augur mods on her if you want. It's not a big deal. Augur message as well. The duration is helpful for Dispensary, Blaze Artillery. Protea's Warframe where very uniquely duration turns to damage due to the way the Blaze Artillery and honestly the way Temporal Anchor and Blaze Artillery works, which I think is cool for the time Warframe, that having more duration actually gives you very directly more damage. Flow here, more energy is good. Continuity, duration, already explained. Streamline here is not needed. It's just kind of here because it's how I put together a beginner build. It's comfort. Being able to cast your abilities more helps you learn how to use them more. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And then Equilibrium, as I mentioned, with Dispensary, dispensing those really high quality health orbs, this gives you a lot more energy when you have Equilibrium, to the point where your energy economy is just busted out the wazoo, huge. So to explain stats real quick, duration is very high priority. You're going to want a lot of it. And actually, I'll just go to my main build right now, which is Warframe Protea. Duration you want really high. My duration on my turrets is 7 seconds. This gives them the most time possible to stack up to a ludicrous number. Dispensary being up for longer also gives it more value. It gives it more like ROI in terms of energy, return on investment in terms of energy. So that's important. It's also, it's a more expensive ability, so you want it to cough up its energy cost and then more. I use Roar. Listen, man, I get it's not very creative. I understand. High duration, precision to intensify for more strength, so on and so forth. So I'll explain this build. Also, Archon Stretch is not needed here. This could be replaced with regular Stretch. This just makes the build look better. So this is my main build here. It's all power, strength, and duration, and then again, I even use Augur Reach in my main build. I use Narrow-Minded because it converts into actual damage, which is quite good with Roar. The goal of this build is basically just to get insane damage out of Blaze Artillery and my weapons. That's kind of it, and Grenade Fan as well. This build's very basic. It's just an more advanced version of the beginner build. Arcanes, there are some choices. In my opinion, the best ones are straight up Molt-Augmented, Molt-Vigor, and Molt-Efficiency. Efficiency, of course. Again, this is the case of turning duration into damage. Really, really strong. Archon Vitality, even if unranked, you're really just getting it for those status effects from abilities that deal heat damage, will be applied twice. This, of course, applies to your Blaze Artillery. That's big. Let's see. So this is a really good setup. This is my max range setup. This one uses Tempest Barrage, and it uses Viral Tempest. This is kind of my campy setup, where basically you are locking down whatever area is under your Tempest Barrage is getting absolutely smoked. If you like this build, you try it out. Hydrate is not the hardest to subsume, so I suggest you try it out. I think you should maybe plant in some Corrosive Shards so you can full strip. It's not necessary nowadays with the changes they've made to armor, but this setup is so wacky strong. Like, Viral Tempest is you're armor shredding, you're proccing Viral, and you're absolutely just smoking an entire area with your Blaze Artillery. Super fun. It could probably use a little more duration, but this is more of a spam casty one. So yeah, and also like max range, so it's casual. You couldn't, again, max range is 84 meters. That is like comedic. That is hilarious. God, this Warframe is so good. Anywho, config C. This is my setup that actually utilizes one of her augments. Temporal Erosion, we'll talk about in a second, but I just use Nourish. This build's more meant to like run around inside of her 4. So I use Nourish to keep my energy high as opposed to relying on Dispensary. Note that in her ultimate, all of her stats that were at a certain point. Oh god, I forgot to mention this. Oh lord, okay, that's awful. All of her stats that were at a certain point, so like your ammo, health, shields, all that good stuff, will be rewinded as well to where they previously were before the cast. So keep that in mind. This is how you kind of keep your energy high, but I have Nourish here in case I mess up. Basically, the kills per second on this build gets pretty high. So to talk about augments now, you have two options. One of them I straight up don't own because I don't think Temporal Artillery is very good. I'll put it on your screen right now so you can see it. This is, again, I think it's a Temporal Anchor augment in disguise. It's straight up propaganda, and I don't think it's good. Capping Protea's turret to 20x is... you're wasting a lot of the character there. And I get if you want to play a more mobile Protea, that's fine. But I think a lot of what Warframe is playing Warframes that suit your playstyle and suit what the mission calls for. And I don't really want to play Protea running around. I want to play Protea locking down an area. So and capping that turret at 20x, as you can see, the well-placed turrets get past 20x in like 2 seconds. So yeah, just not a great augment in my opinion. And it's also an augment that forces you, again, to keep per 4. Which, again, if you want to do is fine. It's just you're capping your damage. You're forced to keep the 4. Not great. Temporal Erosion, however, against armored targets, so Murmur and Grineer generally speaking, Scaldra as well. This augment's insane. You cast this thing with Augmented Stacked and Protea's passive, you can like shred armor in 2 seconds with her abilities. Let me actually demonstrate this build because I haven't ran it in a second, but I think I can make it happen right here, right now for you. So you're just gonna queue her passive up like so. Cast it. 1 ability, 2 ability. Armor gone. Armor gone on these enemies, just like that. It is that easy. It is insane. And then you can also do the, we have 4-6 million. We could implode if we want to. The range on this build is decent enough to do so. So yeah, this build is absolutely insane. As you can see, the range is a little bit lower. This build can be updated, but just understand the premise of Temporal Erosion. Build for strength so that you can shred within like 2 shots. I would put more range on here, looking back at it, and maybe even replace Nourish with something else. But Temporal Erosion against armored targets, you should not sleep on. Note again that you can hold cast Protea's ultimate to dispel it. Towards the end, in like the last 3 seconds, you hear that little timer ticking. Hold the ability, it dispels it. You basically are just giving yourself a buff for 20 seconds that makes you an armor shredding machine. It is insanely good, and it is worth the augment. This is one of the better designed augments in the entire game. It's an option that feels strong against certain targets with a certain playstyle. Love this thing. This build is not the greatest representation of it. I haven't played this playstyle in a while. I used to run it in Netra cells. But just be aware that Temporal Erosion is quite good. Moving on to a few other things. So, Archon Shards. These are... she can use them all. It is so good. I have casting speed and parkour velocity, I believe. And then I have a strength and a strength. Duration here, again, duration turns to damage with Protea. So if you want duration, which is generally a comfort stat, it really does depend on the helmet choice you make, but I think strength is a little bit better. And then I would really strongly recommend either Equilibrium or an Equilibrium Shard. Both of these options are super good. It makes Dispensary do so much more, which is really valuable. In terms of helmets, there are a lot of options. I think the best are Roar. I actually think Nourish is not great on her. I don't think it's worth taking, but I use it in my setup. Ensnare, insanely broken grouping, probably the best grouping helmet. Larva is an option as well. Gloom is quite good, slowing enemies down. Again, when you're using it with Protea's passive, you're gonna get a 100% power strength Gloom that is channeled. It screenshots the ability strength that you casted it with, which means everyone's getting slowed. I think Gloom is really boring, so I won't ever be doing that playstyle personally, but I'm telling you it's strong. And then Tempest Barrage is probably one of my favorite. It's like full area denial. Again, my build is this roar one, if you want it. But I do think the Tempest Barrage one is really, really strong. So yeah, those are the builds. And I'm gonna now share with you my favorite tech of all time. You'll notice that I don't have a grouping helmet setup. That's because I used the Proboscis Cernos. This is something I hope that DE looks into a little bit, because as they release stronger and stronger Warframes, sometimes there's no reason to use a gun, or it feels redundant at times. This is my, listen, it's like Heat Inherit, but it's not really necessary for Protea. If you want to learn what Heat Inherit is, just look it up. It's not too complicated. Basically, you just apply the strongest heat proc possible, and then follow it, like subsequent heat procs will be that strong. Super good, but it's not necessary really. This is the setup. It's really about utility, and you'll see here that the Proboscis Cernos will do the grouping for me. So I'll shoot it, and those tendrils will group the enemies. Now this is no ensnare. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's that good, because it is not as good as ensnare. But it's like this. It's I get my helmet slot. I don't have to use, and I get to use power strength with my roar and stuff. So it's insanely good. Note that primed firestorm does not help with the grouping tendrils, and this thing's radial attack has built-in viral. So yeah, your viral priming, heat priming, which takes off half armor, by the way, with pretty high status chance. You could probably get a better ribbon. This ribbon you can replace with just like I don't know, any kind of status chance really, or prime with a different element if you want. But I think viral heat's really good. Yeah, this is like my favorite thing ever. This is, I don't know if anyone else has a video on it or anything like that, but this is like the shit for me. Look at this. Like, it is so fun. It's, again, it's not going to get you like the insane numbers that Ensnare would. Ensnare Protea is really strong, but it's just a free viral heat priming that you can spam really effectively. It won't run out of ammo due to Dispensary. This setup's really good. There's other grouping weapons. I think there's like a spear gun that does it. The Tenet Planks will group. But this is my preferred sidearm. I think that your sidearm should probably be something like the Dual Toxicist or the Lex Prime. You're going to want a heavy hitter. Protea kind of can struggle with single targets a little bit, because again, she relies on having groups of enemies to scale Blaze Artillery off of, and to scale her Temporal Anchor off of the Implosion. So having something like Lex Prime, I'll show the build here, that is able to, it's just kind of like your little trusty sidearm that will blow anything's brains out. This is kind of what you want on the side. And then the Praetos, meleeing with Protea is kind of goofy, not really the frame to be doing it on, so you're going to want to grab the Praetos in order to move around more effectively. Now, focus trees, you get a lot of options. But I think my favorite is Zeneric. It's in case you get hit by some magnetic proc or whatever and you need some energy. If you have a problem with energy, you can either use Wellspring or and then Intermite will allow you to cast a free Dispensary every 60 seconds if shit hits the fan ever. But what this will look like basically is you're just going to get your passive up like so. You'll then cast base Wellspring, which procs Multivigor, and then the Hardened Wellspring, which gives it 20% additional, and then you'll cast the Roar inside. And you see, without any stacking of anything, that's a 150% Roar off rip. So that setup is really strong, and that's why I run it in the way that I do. But as you know, if you're trying to go band for band with power strength, Matter Eye is straight up better with what's it called? Where are you? Sling Strength. Yeah, Sling Strength is just insanely strong. You add 40%, and you also get casting speed. So yeah, I just prefer the quality of life that Zeneric provides, but if you do want the most powerful Roar possible, you will have to go Sling Strength with Matter Eye. So keep that in mind. Alrighty, on to a little bit of gameplay. So we're gonna pop a relic open. Let's see what we want to pop here. Okay, so hopefully there isn't anything I forgot to note. Part of survivability is really cut and dry. The two things I try to focus on during these demonstrations are survivability and damage. survivability is pretty cut and dry. If you have her ultimate, you should be trying to utilize that, and then you're just going to want to spam her one. I'll put a dispensary down first, and then pop that shield on, kill these bums, and we'll get started. It is not. Ugh. Yeah. Anyhow. So, area denial is kind of the name of the game here. Placing dispensaries behind you is a good choice. I'd say the one thing that I struggle a bit with, real quick, let's do the optimal combo actually. Ooh, this guy's sitting here too. Alright. So that is a 182% roar off rip. So your goal is kind of one thing with area denial frames that I've noticed is you really want to learn how to use the minimap properly to determine where enemies are coming from and where they currently are. So as you can see, I'm just, every entrance I've got, I'm popping my one there. This build has lower range, but it really does not matter. I've placed my 100% additional power strength dispensary in the center here, and I just kind of take note of where enemies are coming from and keep popping them. So if I want another strong turret up, I'll pop 3 of my blade grenades and then put a new one up. My I notice my dispensary is running low. I'll cast my 3 again. So yeah, this is honestly, whenever I do these demonstrations, I'm always a little bit worried that like I'll mess up. Like the temple one, for example, and the Comey one. Like I just don't have as much time on those frames. But the Protea one, I'm just like, it's kind of a little break from recording beforehand. I guess one thing I should comment on is playing Protea while running around. Just kind of, again, like I mentioned, use the... You gotta be kidding me. Okay, this is gonna be funny. You've seen how powerful the frame is. You guys surely won't mind if I double my range and strength, right? I won't bother you. Oh my goodness. But yeah, kind of be mindful of where your dispensary is placed. It's not like traditional energy regen. It is tied to a location, so you have to kind of be mindful of where it's sitting. Another note is, especially if you're playing in that higher end content, kind of try to get either your dual tox or your Lex Prime Archon charged, so that when the enemy pulls up, you'll have it ready to go. But yeah, these enemies are just getting smoked. This frame's really easy if you know what's going on. Again, notice I kind of placed that turret not super high in the eye, in like the sky, but also not directly on the ground. And that's because, again, I want it to be able to utilize its punch through, but I don't want cover to be in the way either. Getting used to the altitude you want to place the turrets on, it's just going to come with experience. And then with my dispensary is only at 20 seconds, I pop a new one. Sometimes you'll just notice your passive is up, and it's like, all right, time to use the dispensary. Here I notice that my roar is coming to a low duration, so I'll get ready to do that. Basically, that's the main mechanic, if you want to call it, of this build, is just making sure you optimize your roar. There's a lot of builds that function like that. And yep, you're just going to keep placing these down. Again, be mindful of that third turret if you end up wanting to use it. Because, oh goodness. Another thing, the Proboscis Cernos is great at taking out nullifier bubbles as well. Those guys are pretty annoying. So yeah, you see I jump around quite a bit. Protea is area lockdown, but I like to play her a little bit physically active. I notice my shields get low there. I want to pop my 3 like that, or my 1 rather. I'll use my 1 to queue up my 3. Just trying to be very active. I'll roll to dodge that. And I see that there's a guy spawning, so I'll pop my Incarnon. And I'll also put all 3 of my turrets up, try to cover every direction I can. And then pop this guy in the dome. He's gone. So I had my Incarnon ready to go, so it just really did not matter what that guy wanted to do, what his game plan was. But yeah, it's just a very standard pattern of trying to stun yourself with your Proboscis Cernos shot like I did. A very standard pattern of casting. You just do kind of want to be like semi-mindful of your 1 and your 2. These are going to be the main abilities that you're casting. If you're using the Tempest Barrage build, that's also going to be a factor because the power strength that comes from your passive will help proc more viral, which I don't know that it's more necessary, or I don't know that it's necessary at all to proc more viral with a higher status chance. Here I noticed that my dispensary is getting low, so I'm going to spam my 1 out just for fun. I'll spam the survivability version, get those shield satellites up. Just being mindful of the passive is really all you need to do to play Protea properly and knock yourself on your ass with your Proboscis Cernos. The main thing with Protea is always going to be what your helmet ability is if you decide to use it. And that's it. God, that was... I needed a little break. So you see we're at 5 minutes with pretty lax gameplay. And I'll pop those survivability. Again, like on command, I'm just fine. Like, my shield's broke, it just doesn't matter. So yeah, 700 kills at 5 minutes with sitting here yapping my ear off. And that's it. This frame is so good. So good. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to put them in the comments. I plan to keep uploading guides, but I'll admit this Protea one is the one I'm most excited for. Let me smoke these Thrax real quick. Roll them up real nice. Come here, buddy. Come here. Oh, being problematic now, are we? Not a huge fan of these guys. One of my least favorite parts about downwind here, but they are my favorite missions, admittedly. Alright, come here, buddy. Pissing me off. Another reason, there are just going to be targets that your Lex is going to like a lot more than your turrets. Let's get out of here. So yeah, it's really simple. Be mindful of your passive. If you're using Temporal Anchor, just really, you'll think it's complicated. It's just not. A little bit of knowledge, you're just doing more damage. Just be wary of the implosion. You're going to have so much range built in that you don't have to really think it through. It is a win more ability. If you're having a hard time living, your ult will save you. If you're having a hard time doing damage, your ult will save you. It can be used for whatever you want. It's really will do both at the same time in many cases. So yeah, we'll get to the conclusory bit in a second, but yeah, 700 kills in 5 minutes. That's pretty above the golden standard of what you want from a Warframe, especially one that's advertised in the way that Protea is. Alrighty, so that's Protea for you. This Warframe is one of the best in my opinion. I believe that DE kind of mastered the engineer archetype after a while, with many failed attempts with Vauban. I hope that Vauban gets the same treatment that Protea has. This Warframe is incredibly good. You get great damage, great CC from Grenade Fan, incredible utility from Dispensary. Temporal Anchor, again, I don't use it, and I really should. It's an ability that can do everything. It's just a little bit of extra work that I think Warframe players are a little bit of adverse to, which is notable, and that's a whole different conversation. But if you want to use Temporal Anchor, you should, and you can, and it's worth it. Blaze Artillery is ridiculous damage that scales in a variety of ways. Her passive is completely unique and enables all sorts of different playstyles, however you decide to utilize it. Protea is just straight up one of the best. She does it all. Easy to shield gate with, insane damage, insane survivability, fun aesthetic, great cosmetics. I mean, she does everything. So yeah, this is a frame that I would absolutely have to recommend to you. Again, could be worth just buying her straight up, buying her prime set, farming her prime set. But yeah, this frame is going down as one of the best, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. A couple of notes I have in editing. The new Arcane Hotshot could be quite good on her if you decide to use her with weapons. But that seems to be the only thing I missed that I didn't cover. So yeah, Protea is amazing. You should definitely run her. Just as a little ending bit, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for the support. I know these things are long. I noticed, I looked at the analytics, 14% of you stayed to the very end. That is insane. Thank you so much. For 14%, you were my goats. I will appreciate you until the end of time. No pun intended, because we're doing a Protea video. Leave comments on what you want next. Subscribe, like, yada yada, so on and so forth. thank you guys for staying through these. I know I'm yapping my ear off, my throat's getting tired, and I appreciate your guys' support and viewership more than you know. Thank you so much. It really encourages me to keep trying. Otherwise, have a good night, good day, whatever you're getting up to. Any suggestions for the next video? I've got a few ideas. Let me know. So take care, love yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.